Today is October 13th, 2025, and this is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
And I was just commenting on how we're going to be reading 1 Samuel 17, and I said, this is a chapter that needs no introduction.
And I said, there may be some people who don't know this story at all or don't know it very well. Maybe you know a little bit about it, about David and a slingshot and killing the giant, but I bet there's a lot of details that might be surprising.
I bet that is very true, too, because a lot of times people use this symbolically to say that we are Davids, we're small, but we can do great things and conquer.
We can fight the giants through God, strength.
There's some truth to that, but I think the whole thing here is that David is empowered by God to overtake this giant.
And he's defending God's reputation.
Yes, and very, I would say, stirred in his heart to see this uncircumcised Philistine taunting the armies of the living God. He says, someone needs to stand up, and he stands up.
Yeah.
And
through
God
the miraculously empowers him.
Yep. Through the power of God, he has the victory. Okay, so let's read the story. Enjoy it. It's a great, famous story. 1 Samuel 17. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Succoth, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Socoh and Azekah in Ephes Damim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side with a valley between them. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. 6 cubits, that's 9 feet, and a span 9 feet and 9 inches. Pretty tall guy. And he had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze.
The big guy.
Yeah, I think Andre the Giant, is a good picture of this, though he would dwarf Andre the Giant. He would make Andre the Giant look small. And he had bronze armor on his legs and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spearhead weighed 600 shekels of iron. And his shield-bearer went before him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." And the Philistine said, "I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid.
Verse 12, now David was the son of an Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah named Jesse, who had 8 sons. And if you remember, Jesse was the son of Obed, who was the son of Boaz and Ruth.
Yeah.
Okay, so just wanted to throw that in there. So Jesse, who had 8 sons. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days the Philistine came forward and took his stand morning and evening. For 40 days.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
And Jesse said to David his son, "Take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp of your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well, and bring some token from them."
Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle lines, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage, and ran to the ranks, and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before, and David heard him.
All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel, and the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel." And David said to the men who stood by him, "What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" I remember my brother and I, when we were playing, when we were small, we used to call each other uncircumcised Philistines, just as a manner of a biblical insult to each other. You uncircumcised Philistine. Anyway, verse 27, "And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him."
Verse 28, "Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, 'Why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle.'" And David,
ascribing motives to David which simply were not true.
Yeah. David was simply just doing what his father asked.
Yep.
So verse 29, "And David said, 'What have I done now? Was it not but a word?' And he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before."
When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from his flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him." Pretty ferocious of David.
Yeah.
That's what a shepherd has to do, right? The shepherd, the good shepherd, stands his ground.
Yep, and
the hireling flees.
Right.
I've been preaching through that in John chapter 10. "Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them. For he has defied the armies of a living God." And you see right there what you're talking about. Like it was the name of God that was at stake right here.
Right.
And David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you."
Verse 38. "Then Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head, and he clothed him with a coat of mail. And David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, 'I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them.' So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine."
Okay, we got to talk about this. When we went to Israel, one of the things we saw someone playing with a slingshot, and we're trying to sell them.
Yeah. Right? But like Bedouin shepherds.
Yeah, who did this all the time. And David, being in the wilderness, would have taken a slingshot and swung and been pretty good at this. And so he was showing. And one of the things I was shocked with was how big a stone that they had.
Yes, yeah, that was very interesting, very eye-opening.
Yeah, and how far he was launching this stone. Like I remember he was whipping this thing around, and that thing went a long ways. And when you think about stone, think about like baseball size.
Yeah, yes.
That's how big they were. Maybe just a little smaller than a baseball. And so one of the things we did when we were in the Valley of Elah is...
Don't tell anyone.
We got the stone.
A stone.
Okay. However, I've heard that if you go there now, you can't take any stones from the Valley of Elah.
Too many people
did what we did, and we have one. It's a prized possession of ours. It sits in our bedroom.
Yeah.
That I think it could be the stone. You never know. Could be.
Could be.
Anyway, these are not 5 smooth stones. Think 5 maybe small baseball-sized stones that were smooth. But there's a children's song that says, and one little...
Oh, yeah, 5 little stones went into the sling.
5 little stones.
Round and round.
Yeah, these weren't little... These are pretty big stones. No. Okay, anyway, verse 41. I digress. "And the Philistine moved forward and came near to David with his shield bearer in front of him. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. And the Philistine said to David, 'Am I a dog that you've come to me with sticks?' And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field." And that's a common theme, by the way, even in Revelation, just bodies falling, not buried, and the vultures come and eat their bodies, dishonoring them. Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel."
Right there, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel.
This is the motive behind what David was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And continued.
And that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hand.
That should be the main theme of this story, I think.
Yeah, the battle is the Lord's.
Okay, verse 48. When the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. No hesitation there. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground.
Okay.
First shot.
First shot, right in the forehead, falls it down. And you know what happens next. I'm asking you, though, as a reader, if you don't know what happens next, I think a lot of Sunday school stories is where it ends. Where the giant falls, he falls face first, and then David is the hero. Listen to what happens next. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone and struck the Philistine and killed him. And there was no sword in the hand of David when David ran and stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of its sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. There it is, right? David just cut off his head after he had died. So that's a gory detail that often left out of
that's what
stories.
they did. Like, this happened to Saul later on.
Yes.
After he died, his head was cut off.
Yeah, dishonoring bodies, right? And the men of Israel and Judah rose with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as Gath and the gates of Ekron, so that the wounded Philistines fell on the way from Sha'arim as far as Gath and Ekron. And the people of Israel came back from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camp. And David took the head of the Philistines and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. So, like, prized possession, the head of David. I mean, that's a pretty gory thing. Goliath, yeah. It's a pretty gory thing.
Verse 55, as soon as Saul saw David go out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, "Abner, whose son is this youth?" And Abner said, "As your soul lives, O king, I do not know." And the king said, "Inquire whose son the boy is." And as soon as David returned from the striking down of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, "Whose son are you, young man?" And David answered, "I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite."
Yeah. Well, there's the story of David and Goliath, and depending upon how much you know of the story, you can put in details, or my summary just says David kills Goliath. David defeats Goliath, and just because I think it's a pretty common story of everything that I know, but you might want to put here just emphasis upon how the battle's the Lord's, as verse 47 says, or verse 45, "I come to you in the name of the Lord." David comes in the name of the Lord to defeat Goliath, or the uncircumcised Philistine. If you want to add that would be okay. But you want to keep your summary short. David defeats Goliath is totally fine. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.